Hello everybody, I'm Silly. This will be the one-shot entitled The End of a Hero by Void Spider Lily on AO3. Summary. Aizawa and Mic attend a student's funeral. This is the aftermath. The drive home was silent. Hazashi had turned off the radio, unable to listen to cheery tunes. Shota didn't want to listen to it either. His mind was already too full, a confusing mix of loud and silent at the same time, replaying memories on a cruel loop. What could he have done differently? Where did the heroes go wrong? Was the plan faulty from the start? Did he send in the wrong... Sho, stop. Hazashi demanded, voice low. Shota slowly released the far too tight grip of his interlocked fingers. He watched how his fingertips and nails left marks on his skin. He focused on breathing, on silencing the thoughts that circled his mind. Turning his right palm up, he traced the calluses with his opposite hand, the rough surface so familiar. The pattern would be calming if only he could get his mind to stop. He needed it all to stop for just a moment. One single. Hazashi let out a heavy sigh, sucked in a breath, and then began to hum, filling the small car with his voice, a song Shota always loved to hear. He closed his eyes and listened, easing his hands apart. He then tried to match his breathing to Hazashi's. His mind didn't clear, not completely, but the thoughts were slower. Memories weren't piling on top of each other and threatening to drown him. His heart still ached, crushing under the weight of loss. It wasn't peace, not even close. They stayed like that for the remainder of the drive. Slowly, Shota opened the door. The house felt cold and empty as he stepped in. Heavy boots landed on the tiles as he made way for Hazashi behind him. He knelt before trying to untie the laces on his shoes, cursing as his fingers stuck. Hazashi dropped in front of him. Deft fingers quickly removed his shoes before placing them to the side. He quickly stood, ignoring the hurt that flashed in Hazashi's eyes as he walked away. He couldn't do this, not now. Not the way Hazashi wanted, with their feelings barred between them. Every dark and ugly thought brought to life. Instead, he would sit and try to get some work done. Distract himself and keep busy. In the past, he worked himself to the bone. He had trained and ruined his hands in the process. Now, he had reports to file and papers to grade. Footsteps sounded behind him. Throwing open the office door, he went to his desk. Pretending there wasn't a figure looming in the doorway, he pulled out the desk chair, only to pause as his eyes settled on the photo frame. To be exact, sitting side by side on the far corner of his desk. The first held 3 students. His hair was shorter in his high school days. An arm slung around his shoulders and pulled him in. He remembers falling into his friend. Bright and loud Oboro. His smile in the photo was so big, all teeth and eyes shut. He looked stupid, but so incredibly happy. Hazashi looked just as ridiculous back then, short hair too, and ugly glasses. He was laughing in the photo. They all looked so fucking happy. It was taken the week before internships, before Oboro died. Unable to look at his bright, happy friend any longer, Shota's gaze flickered over to the next photo. It was Class 1A, all piled into the common room of the dorms after the sports festival. Every single kid was smiling, laughing, and pulling on each other. Hugs, handshakes, fingers ruffling hair, and joy. Pure joy radiated from his students. In the middle of it all was his problem child. He couldn't tear his gaze away from the kid's smile, big and happy, and always with tears gathering in the corners of his eyes. That was the last time the kid had smiled. With shaking hands, he reached for the photo, fingers wrapping around the frame as his thumb brushed against the glass beside the kid. He wasn't seeing the photo anymore. No, he was back on the field. Ruining earth around him as he knelt in the dirt, warm blood trickled down his arm as he watched Deku fight. He hadn't seen his student like this before. Green lightning crackled in the air, racing along his skin and creating a field around him. Black Whip warped around his forearm as he pulled Shigaraki closer, a battle cry tearing from his throat as he landed yet another punch to the villain. The blow forced them apart, Shigaraki's back bending over the whips as he reached their limits. With the way the lightning arched off Deku's back, it looked like the kid had wings for a moment. Icarus, Shota thinks. There were only a few more blows before they both fell, crashing back to earth with a resounding boom. Midoriya was gone the moment he hit the ground, the fall far too high. Shota snapped out of the memory, the phantom feeling of blood warming his hands. The funeral had been shattering. So many people love the kid, had loved. Midoriya was loved. He thought about the speeches, the memories, the tears and wails, his mother sobbing on her knees alone before the wooden box. Midoriya Izuku died a hero's death, brave and noble until the very end. Yagi had spoken, and bitter rage burned in Shota's veins at the memory. Noble. Noble? What was noble about dying at 16? The kid should still have his entire life ahead of him. His friends shouldn't have to figure out how to fill the hole he left behind. Brave and noble until the very end. A mother should never bury their child. The picture flew from his hands before he could think. It slammed into the wall, the crack of glass sharp in the too silent space. Shota didn't stop there. Everything and anything was flung at the wall. He didn't care. Nothing mattered. Glass filled the air, small shards nicking his skin as it bounced back towards him. He threw the things with more force than the last, barely paying attention to what he was grabbing. It didn't matter. After Oboro, he had sworn that he would never let a student die on his watch. And yet, when it had mattered, when it was time to breathe life into those words, all he had done was knelt in the dirt. He didn't do a single thing to help. He didn't stop the plan or attack. Didn't fight hard enough for his students, for children, not to be included in a brewing war. Slender fingers wrapped around his wrist, grip tight and almost bruising as they stopped him from throwing the next picture frame. Not that show. He looked at what was held in his hands. It was a photo from their first dance. Hazashi's smile was soft while holding him like he was precious. He was the only one who had, with warm and gentle hands so full of love. The wooden frame was worn down from how often he held it. He didn't die a hero. Hazashi pulled the photo from his hands and placed it on his desk. I know, love. I know. His partner whispered, his voice soft and soothing for his aching heart, but he didn't want that. He couldn't stop feeling like a failure. He swore to protect the kids, and he didn't even try to save Midoriya. He did nothing, just watched. Again. He tore himself out of Hazashi's grasp, pacing back and forth in front of his desk, hands clenching and unclenching into fists with a need to do something. He knew Hazashi was still watching him, probably trying to figure out how to help, how to fix Shota. It's not right, I know. He whirled, stopping in his tracks as his red glare fixed onto his partner. Shota dropped his quirk at Hazashi's expression. His eyes were red and puffy from too many tears. and so much hurt was buried beneath all his concern. Shota quickly sucked in a deep breath, unable to stop his blood from boiling over. "We did that to him, Zashi," he yelled, voice booming in the small room. "He died violent and young and desperate, just like we all knew he'd die. And we didn't stop him. We didn't protect him." Hazashi was slowly stepping closer, careful to avoid stepping on any glass. Shota matched each step, keeping distance between them and uncaring of the pain in his feet. Attack after attack, and we didn't do a fucking thing to stop the villains. Every fight, we watched him dive in without a fucking care for himself. Not once did we stop him. We pushed him to his death. He was spiraling, he knows, down into a bottomless well of self-loathing and hatred. It was almost a physical thing that pulled him into a cold, drowning tide of sorrow and regret. He could burn, yell, scream, and break, but it wouldn't stop bitter cold from devouring him. His mother had to bury him. She's all alone now, and we did that. I swore I would protect them, that I wouldn't let another kid die, and... He choked on his next breath, the words and anger dying in his throat. I led him to his death, like a lamb to the slaughter. I didn't do a damn thing to stop it. Hazashi was there, arms wrapping tight around his shoulders as he collapsed to the floor. "It's not your fault. It will never be your fault. It wasn't then, and it's not now, Shota." Hazashi pulled back for a moment before warm palms cupped his cheeks, forcing their eyes to meet. "You fought like hell for that class. You did all you could. I'm sorry." Leaning forwards, Hazashi placed his forehead against his own. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Without the rage, Shota was left to drown in a tide of sorrow. His heart was squeezed as he thought of a bright smile and freckled cheeks. Tears slowly began to flow down his cheeks as he leaned forwards, silently asking for Hazashi. Together they sat on the floor, Shota's frayed pieces held with Hazashi's tender grip as they leaned against the desk. For now, they would have to be enough. Alright everybody, that concludes my crying session, and the one-shot entitled The End of a Hero. Please make sure to check out the Discord if you haven't already, if you'd like to get updates easier, get connected with people within the fanfiction community, make requests for a podfic, and more. The link to the server will be in the description. Now, I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for listening.